Hey everybody, welcome back to Late to the Party Movie Reviews, where we review movies that are at least 10 years old. And we're reviewing it with a group of 3 millennials and 3 Gen Xers. And our movie review for this week is Inglourious Bastards from 2009, directed by Quentin Tarrantino, and starring one A-list guy and a bunch of B-list guys. Brad Pitt as Aldo Rain, Melanie Laurent as Shoshana Dreyfus, Christoph Waltz as Hans Landa, Eli Roth as Donnie Donowitz, or the Bear Jew, Michael Fassbender as Archie Hickox, Diane Kruger as Bridget von Hammersmark, Daniel Bruhl as Friedrich Zoller, and my personal favorite, Till Schweiger as Hugo Stiglitz. What a fantastic movie I think this was, and I'm eager to hear what you guys all thought about it. And what I'd like to do is, since Jose's on point right now, I'd like to start with Jose and get your feedback on whether or not you think this movie needs to be remade at all.
Hell no, don't touch it. Leave it alone. Honestly, leave it alone. Doesn't need to be remade. It's amazing the way it is. I absolutely love it. Plus, I don't think, given the current political climate, I think it would offend about 30% of Americans to see so many Nazis getting killed.
Yeah, that is kind of a little political hot button these days. What about you, Lego?
But no.
Do you think this movie holds up even though it's 11 years old?
Absolutely. I feel like it could have been made yesterday. Everything's filmed super pretty. Nothing looks like especially bad. The acting's all good and contemporary, And I feel like that's one of the things when you make like a historical fiction, it kind of tends to hold up over time because you are going back and like looking at something that's supposed to be older. It has a tendency to age a little bit better.
Isaac, what do you think about the performance of the guy who played Adolf Hitler?
I thought it was good. It was really good. He did a good job. I felt it was a good job.
So you're a big fan of Hitler, is what you're saying?
Yes, very big fan. I was trying to hope my mustache would grow in so I could have cut it just right for this, but not good enough. Next time. Maybe right there. My favorite
kind of ruined that style.
My favorite part, yeah, the Charlie Chaplin was ruined by Hitler. For sure. And that was like a look that people had many years ago, and that look can never be seen. The only person that has pulled that look off was Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan pulled off the Hitler for a while.
Did he?
Yeah. Look it up.
He got lots of backlash for it, for sure.
Yeah, but he
was
still
going to pull a
rocked
sponsorship for underwear over it.
He rocked it, though, and he was like, I'm gonna take it back, but he gave it back.
Even that was too hard for him.
Yeah, my favorite part of the Hitler was when he got shot multiple times on the ground and his body was out already. He just kept getting shot more. I think that was by far his best scene in the movie.
It's pretty intense. Nate, what do you think about? What do you think about the role of Friedrich Zoller as the Nazi sniper? How do you think about his role in terms of not just the performance, but like his character in the movie?
I think his character was pivotal in the movie. They tried initially to set him up in a position to where you would kind of feel some kind of sympathy for him, if it's possible, for a murderous Nazi. And he's pushing on the girl, and he's acting somewhat polite with Shoshana the whole time until the end when he gets her in the booth and he puts on his rape cap and goes to go for work, and she's like, whoa, 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 don't rape me. Close the door. I'll give it to you for real. And when he turns his back, kaplow, kaplooey. So, you know, they did a good job of removing any kind of sympathy that you would have for his character at the end there. So that was well done. Magnifique.
Well, to continue with the theme of the Nazis, Liz, can you give me your thoughts on the Jew hunter, Colonel Hans Landa?
Why are you giving me like your A-list actor in this movie as my dude? He commands the screen. As soon as you show up, you already know he's a real dick. Like, I mean, just the way is able to come in and calmly and just have that conversation and no problem. And yeah, like, and later on when you see him go up in the ranks because he was so good at his job, he takes pride in his job. He takes pride being the Jew hunter is what he's called. And I mean, he just plays that part perfectly. I think that was the first movie I ever saw Christoph Waltz in, and that's whenever I think of him, I think of that movie. I don't even remember any of the other movies he's ever been in recently, but I know he's been in a few.
Wasn't he the bad guy in the Green Hornet, the remake?
I didn't watch that movie.
I think
He was in Django. He was in
Django.
And he
That's
was
right.
in Water for Elephants.
Yes.
And I think he's a scientist in that that Machina, that girl robot. I can't remember what it is.
Machina?
Yeah.
Ex Machina.
Yeah, I think he's a scientist in that, but like no, in this he's so perfect.
That's why he won the Oscar.
And I was gonna say I thought he won an Oscar for this one too, and it was just his performance is great. For someone that you want to hate, you enjoy watching every scene that he's in because he does it so well. He takes it on so well, and yeah, he's a perfect Nazi.
That was a bingo.
That's right.
That's a bingo. Okay, I want to throw out a group question this time, and I'd like to get everybody's perspective on it because it seems like everybody here has a very high opinion of this movie, and I don't think that's too far off the mark. But I want to go back to start with Jose again, and just ask the question: what is your least favorite part about the film? Whether it's a scene or an actor or whatever.
My least favorite part, man. That's I don't know. I think that's really difficult. I think it's just it's not necessarily the like a scene or anything like that, but I just think it's always made me kind of get a little upset as how proud the Nazis were of themselves, and how proud of the work they were doing and the propaganda they were putting out. And I think it's just all of those things. Like it's just how he portrayed them, which is, you know, from what I've read in history books and from different stories and other people's autobiographies, it's under as to how they saw themselves. So I think that aspect of the movie has always made me uncomfortable, or at least a little kind of, you know, pissed off that they were so proud of what the hell they were doing.
So that's really more of a historical thing rather than a thing about the movie specifically.
But it's the portrayal. It's the way, you know, like they're really on the mark with it. And
I see.
I mean, it's great acting. Yeah, it's great acting, and they really, you know, bring it home, and a lot of it, you know, I think it's Quentin Tarantino's direction, what he wanted to show the audience, and I think he did a great job. You know, if a film doesn't, you know, bring up all kinds of emotions and feelings. I don't know. I think in this case that's what that movie does, and that's what it is that gets me. It's that part of the movie.
Lego, how about you?
It's kind of hard to say, like there wasn't really anything that stuck out too much. I think maybe some of like seeing the I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. The Shoshana, when you see Shoshana in her movie theater and setting it all up and like kind of interacting with the sniper and doing all that. I could see maybe some of that being cut, or maybe seeing a little bit more of what the rest of the society was doing, or maybe see her like going to get bread, like let's see like how like, I don't know, just like a little bit more of what's happening in the world other than just like movie theater, creepy dude, helper dude, like let's see a little bit more. So I don't know, that I felt like that scene kind of dragged out a little bit.
Isaac?
The thing I liked least about this movie is that I wanted more movie. I would have liked to have seen Shoshana's adventure to how she got that movie theater, and a little bit of her from after her family was killed, of how she got to that theater. I would have liked to have seen that. Anything else, I don't have any complaints. This movie was perfect in my eyes.
All right. Nate?
I think you guys mentioned a little bit earlier about how they were putting the Nazis kind of on a pedestal. I think it's one thing if you have Hans Landa, the Jew hunter, if you have him on a pedestal and he seems like he's the Inquisitor, and he's got those backwards way of getting people to confess things, and as an SS Jew hunter, that's sort of his job, is to be able to get into people's minds and into their skin and make them feel uncomfortable and whatnot. But I thought that when they had the Major Hellstrom, when they were in the down in the bar, he was doing the same thing. Now I think that to have more than one of the characters kind of seems like, even though they lost, and even though they lost horribly and all of that happened, it still seems like Tarantino set them up to be the most intellectually superior out of everybody in there. And I don't know if that sits well with me, to think that the Nazis were intellectually superior. I mean, maybe in engineering, things like that, but like the Battle of Wits, I don't know. So, I mean, that left a little bit of a bad taste for me.
All right. How about you?
Well, geez, you guys went all deep. I'm just gonna go basic on this. Is that I am not a fan of Eli Roth. So any scenes that he was in, I can't handle it. Like they were good scenes until they decided to bring him into it. Like, just I think it would have been better if he wouldn't have even said anything. And he just was that silent guy that came out and did whatever he did, when he comes out of the cave with his bat. But he's just so over, like, it's too exuberant, too over the top in his acting and just about any scene he's in. And yeah, like I said, I'm basic. I don't like him. So any of the scenes with him in it, his portrayal of it, I don't like.
Yeah, I think she's onto something there. I'm not so annoyed with the fact that Donnie Donowitz is over the top, because I think you have to juxtapose him with some of the other bastards. But I think Eli Roth is putting too much oomph into it. I think he could have played it a little bit different, and I kind of agree that his scenes are a little bit jarring, and you gotta kind of get taken out of it because he's behaving like a weirdo. But given his film background, that's kind of to be expected, I suppose. The only other thing about the movie that that I don't know if it's annoying so much, but like a lot of the other bastards are like these faceless, like bumps on logs. Even BJ Novak is kind of like annoying in the few scenes that he's in. The only bastards that you really care about are that, what is it? Sergeant Wiki, the one that goes down with them in the basement, and of course Hugo Stiglitz. And the rest of them are kind of like nobodies, you know? And you just wish that you would have seen more of Dominic DeCoco or whatever the hell. Anyway. All right, one last group question before we get to the buckets. I wanted to talk a little bit, because Lego mentioned it before, about how this is kind of a historical movie, but it's a historical movie that does a twist on history. So it takes it out of the realm of, you know, what we know happened and gives kind of like an alternative point of view. And I just wanted to get everybody's kind of general take on how they feel about movies like that. I was thinking through like other examples of that. You have something like Watchmen, you know, which takes place in the 80s, but the whole timeline is flipped because the existence of the Watchmen. Movies like that. So I just wanted to go through one more time and kind of get your thoughts on what you think about movies that are alternative histories. And we'll go back to you again, Jose.
I personally love them, both movies, comics, novels, everything that's written that has an alternative history. I think we've talked about it a few times in the cave. Whenever something like that comes up, if the person writing it has done some good research and actually has some good insight as to what they believe that alternative history would have been like, and they execute it really well, it makes for some really entertaining and some really great reads and some good viewings. In this case, we don't see past, you know, the assassination, but it's still a really well thought out game plan that they came up with. And I think I read somewhere, I don't know, there was over God knows how many attempts to assassinate Hitler. So the fact that we got one view of it, I've seen, you know, other movies as well where they kind of did some kind of their own history as to how they went about doing it. It's fun. It's entertainment. And personally, I love it when people do something like that.
All right, Lego.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Jose on this. I really enjoy to see alternate takes, and I think the reason why this works as a take, like as an alternate take, is because it's kind of speaking in metaphors. It's saying, here's what we're doing with film and media, and we are assassinating this man's character. We are rolling them under the fucking bus 100%. Like, we're destroying these Nazis. Like, any piece of history, any like idea that they could have like snuck in, like some, I don't know, any good that they could have like gotten away with maybe, is going to be just wiped away because of how we're going to portray them for the rest of time. And it's making a point about a historical moment. Because I've read some really bad like Sherlock Holmes, you know, let's call it fan fiction, and it doesn't feel good. It's not like, oh, this is cool, you know. But I think where that and this kind of make a difference. It's like, it's telling you something about what was happening in the time. Whether it's accurate or not, it doesn't really matter.
Isaac, your thoughts?
As long as it's entertaining and it's fun and it's well executed, of course it's gonna be, I'll like it. But if it's dumb, I'm not gonna watch it. But yeah, as long as it's good, whatever these two dudes just said, I agree 100%.
All right, Mr. the Great.
I think that Tarantino, up until the point of this movie and of Django Unchained, he did a really good job of using the story and writing and the plot and his classic Tarantino dialogue amongst the characters to establish the evilness of the villains. And I think in both Django Unchained and Inglourious Bastards, having notoriously previously established villain stereotype people, it was kind of a crutch. You could have, it's a really easy way to establish for us all to hate them is to just slap a Nazi on them or just slap a slave owner on them and build in those things. It's the shortest point between A and B, and I think with what he was able to do before in creating like the sympathetic villain with what he did with with all the characters in Pulp Fiction and in several of his other films, I really think that this is a crutch to bring the villains down and get our emotions going faster. So although it was well written and I don't really have anything bad to say about this movie, I didn't like the trend that this movie started with, him using pre-established villains and all of our emotions to hate them instantly right off the bat as a crutch.
Interesting. That's a good point. Liz?
I always like the alternative, like history stuff. My favorite comics are always the Elseworlds for DC and What Ifs for Marvel. Those are always super fun, or those like mini series where they take it in a different direction or something. And comics, same with like I don't read a lot of alternate history novels. I'm not a big sci-fi reader that way, but because mostly and you see it mostly a lot of times in movies and in books, it's always science fiction somehow. It's always the science that pushes it to a different alternate history, steampunk, or what if this happened or that happened. It's always, like science fiction. You never see it in a war movie, an alternate history war movie. Because even in the alternate history, like novels and books, it's always, they got, steam before their time, or they got electricity before, something like that jumps them forward to something. I think this movie, they did it well. I mean, it wasn't like it was a big, if it continued, it would have been a big change in history, but for the most part, it ends right there. And you're just like, oh, okay, so the war's done. Big deal. Okay. Roll credits. We're good. So I don't think it had like a big impact that way of thinking about how it really altered history or anything like that. Because it happens and then it's done. But the other thing too is the audience has to be aware of history to begin with in order to understand that history got altered in some way. And I don't know if most people know and look into history or look into that kind of stuff to really care to know that it was alternate. For all I know, we could show this to a bunch of kids and they'd be like, yeah, that's exactly how the war went. It's unfortunate, but it's true. I bet if we polled about, a couple hundred people, they'd be like, oh, really? That's not how the war ended? It wasn't the way that it ended in the Quentin Tarantino movie? Yeah. So.
Eli Roth did not kill Hitler.
Right. So, no, I liked it. It was good. I liked the dialogue and, all of that. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm generally down with that kind of stuff because it's kind of like, it's almost like a sci-fi sort of thing. I do have to be honest, though, the first time I saw this movie, the whole scene when the Nazi high command gets shot to death at the end of this film, it like irritated me a lot because it was so different from, the actual historical events. I read a lot of history books, and so I appreciate the scope of how the story actually worked itself out. And I was kind of shocked, I guess, the first time I watched it in that kind of ending sequence in the theater, and it annoyed me. But I'm going to be honest. In the dozen or so times that I've watched the movie since then, there's something very satisfying about Hitler getting blasted in the face. So
a white watermelon or cantaloupe, dude.
It's a brutal scene.
It's just like, whoa.
It's brutal. But it's
okay. I retract a bit of my last what I didn't like. That's the best part of Eli Roth in that movie. Hitler down and just unloading a machine gun into him. See, and he didn't say anything. He was able to do it all his expressions.
It was a little bit more satisfying because in real life you would have taken 40% of that crowd, given 20 to the Soviets, 20 to the States, and we would have started a new space program in 2 different continents.
Yeah,
giving them
right.
all the keys to NASA and let them roll with it.
Yeah, you ever want to see anything exciting, go into Space Command at NASA and say Sieg Heil and watch how many people stand up.
So true.
Anyway, all right, let's move on to the buckets then, and we'll go back to you, Jose, one more time, and give us your buckets, man.
To quote a great man, 10, baby. It's got everything for me, man. It draws up so many emotions. It's such a great story, great movie, great scenes, great filming locations, everything. The whole alternative history play. So acting, directing, everything. 10.
Nice.
Lego, do I even need to ask?
You know, normally I would say no. It's usually an easy 10 for me, but you got to take into consideration all of Quentin's other works. We're like with Killer Clowns, it was a first effort. It was phenomenal because it achieved what it set out to do, and Inglourious Bastards absolutely achieved what it set out to do. It's a 10 out of 10 movie, 100%.
Of course.
I like how you sit it right next to Killer Clowns.
Right. Lego, you're that clown that put the cherry on top there. that review. You just walked up and see you later, suckers.
Oh man, that was good.
Isaac, what do you got for us?
10, baby. 10. It's 10 buckets. I love this movie. I love everything Quentin does. Good movie.
Solid director. Nate, what do you got?
Well, remember, the acting, top notch, directing top notch, stories top notch, the relevance, the all-time relevance, it's going to be top notch. So it's gonna it strikes all of the, the 5 categories that we need to have it be a 10. So it's a 10 for me.
Yeah.
Liz?
Wow, man. It's not a perfect movie for me, but it's still a 9. I give it a 9. Eli really screws it for me. I really don't care. So no, it's a 9 out of 10.
I think I'm going to go with Liz on this one, just using the parameters that Nate has laid out. I agree that in every category that it's definitely, a 2, with the exception of influence. When I think of influence, I think of things like Metropolis or Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where you can see the after effects of those movies going forward into other things. And I'm just not sure that we're going to see people parroting Inglourious Bastards and other movies. In fact, Inglourious Bastards parrots other movies to get where it's at, which is typical for Tarantino, but it's okay because that's his style. So, but yeah, for me, it's going to be a 9. I'm not confident that it's going to have the kind of influence in the movie business in other films. I just don't think it's going to have that kind of reach. It's a great film, very entertaining, but I don't think it's going to cross that barrier really. So 9 out of 10. So with that, I'm going to be turning over the reins for next week's pick to Jose, keeping with the tradition that the sequence we followed last time. So Jose, what do you got for us?
Well, somebody stop me. I'm going in a whole nother direction from you. So I love this guy. So my category is going to be Jim Carrey.
I knew it.
I threw the option out there once. I think we didn't vote for it though because it was in a different category. But the 3 picks that you guys have are Batman Forever, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and The Mask.
I love Cher, so I'm going with The Mask.
Going Batman for baby.
I'm with Lego Batman.
I want to see The Mask again. I haven't seen that in forever.
All right, Isaac.
I'm the
Tiebreaker, bitch. Yeah.
Batman Forever, The Mask. Oh man, I don't know, because Batman Forever, that's part 3 in Batman genres. But the mascot's the dog.
What was the other one?
It's
The other
also
one
got.
was, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Batman Forever because of the mask that he wears.
Come on. That's okay. We have fun stories about seeing that movie.
Joel Schumacher's first take at Batman. Let's do it.
Let's not.
Isn't it his only?
No,
Bat
he did Batman and
Oh,
Robin.
Batman and Robin. Yeah.
Yeah, Batman Forever with Tommy Lee Jones as crazy Two-Face, over the top Two-Face, and
You're
the
very-
Riddler. I can't wait. I haven't watched that movie in a while. It's gonna be bad.
All right. All right.
Is it gonna get 10 buckets, Lego?
Why?
All right,
Stop
guys.
me. You know what I'm saying?
All
So
right.
Batman
Well,
Forever, guys.
Batman Forever is the thing that you can look forward to next week to watch along with us, and we would encourage you to tune in and watch. So for Late to the Party, I'm going to start. I'm Josh.
I'm Liz.
Great Scots! I'm Isaac.
Jason.
I'm Jose.
Nate the Great.
And we'll see everybody next week.